Good morning. It's great to be here today in a stunningly beautiful place amidst a great audience like you. I've spent 23 plus years in advertising, PR, and communication, working for brands, organizations, nonprofits, and governmental organizations. It's only apt that I speak about an insight that's been gaining on me in this area over the last few years. If you look at the slide, there are two pictures. It's not just the colors that are contrasting, but the contrast is also in the terms of the values and of the persona of the two people in focus in those pictures. The first one has Mahatma Gandhi on his famous Dandi Salt March, a momentous civil disobedience movement that culminated in India's independence. A Ahimsa-based civil obedience movement that went on to inspire millions of people across the world and great icons like Nelson Mandela, Martin Luther King, to Barack Obama recently. Can you guess the other person in picture? I can understand. It is Justin Trudeau, the youthful, cool, social savvy Prime Minister of Canada. It's a lovely picture of him waving while he's on his morning jog at a group of students on their way to a prom party. An image that went socially viral. You may ask me, what's wrong about the picture? It later transpired that the whole photo op was actually set up and well planned. Trudeau's official photographer had actually gone ahead and set up his equipment to capture this picture. Trust, as all research and studies have pointed out, is the biggest and the most important foundation block for any reputation, perception, and image building process. As all these studies and research will now tell you, we are at a point of time in history where it is at its lowest in what we call the post-truth era. Now, the natural question is, we shouldn't have been here in the first place. We spend billions and billions of dollars today, more than ever, in image building, in communication building, and brand building processes. More than ever, today, we have sophisticated tools and platforms that allow us to communicate and build an image instantly to millions in a well-controlled, planned manner. Now is also the time in history when presidents, prime ministers, heads of companies, and organizations feel so vulnerable against a small sniff or a snigger. The natural question that arises is why? We have come here because we treat the process of image and reputation building as a professional plastic one with scant regard for what is at the core or what is inside. When what you project is farther from reality and the audience figures that out much later, they head in two directions. The first is they retreat into their own shells of mistrust. And the second is, once they figure out everyone and anyone is into it, they also decide to play along. And thus starts the vicious cycle. Let me explain this to you better with an exercise. And pardon my sense of vanity, I've called it Xavier's image balloon exercise. Here is a balloon that's only filled with air. And I have a small pin in my other hand. Let me see what happens. Got. Now, all it took was a gentle touch of this small pin for this balloon to burst. There's nothing that remains of this blown balloon with just air inside. Now, let me take a similar balloon with sand filled inside. Let me do the same pinpricking that I did before. Can you see? One more time, one more time, one more time, one more time. Nothing happened. The balloon stays intact. And the reason why I did this exercise is to make the point that I was actually just stating before, is that when your image perception building process has substance at its core, has truth at its core, then you don't have to be worried against any attacks on it, because it's capable of standing those attacks by itself, simply because it had substance at its core. However, when you don't have substance and you only have air, and you spend billions and billions of dollars in blowing that balloon bigger and bigger, or that image and reputation bigger and bigger, you are going to be wary of even a small pinprick, because it can just destroy that image in seconds into tatters like this balloon. The other thing is that for us, it was easy to blow air into that balloon, but it took us much longer time, and it was more difficult to fill sand into this balloon. There are two clear disincentives for brands, organizations, and governments to disregard this. The first is that continuing with this current ineffective approach will only drive marketing, branding, communication costs up further. The second is that how much ever you invest, your vulnerability against any attack will only increase. Remember, it all took a small pinprick, and what happened to the balloon? Fortunately, the incentive to change the current ineffective process is higher. Today, the threshold of expectations of citizens, consumers from brands, organizations, and governments are so low that they are willing to forgive you for your mistakes and errors when you admit to it candidly. In fact, it may even work for your brand or organization or government that they will end up preferring you over others because of your candidness. Your billions of dollars of marketing and branding now work better. CSR is a classic example. When you build a large factory in a rural area where you are the largest employer, don't crow about building a school in that area as a favor, because there are visible, tangible benefits to business for you to be building that school in that area. Instead, why don't you try doing something beyond, genuinely good, that uplifts that community, and see the credibility and trust for your brand really go up. There is a larger benefit impact out of this substance-driven get real approach. It gets trust back into the system. It's not going to happen overnight, considering how disillusioned most of us have become. But it's worth a try. For millions of professionals like me across the world who are doing amazing work in these areas, this also provides an opportunity to transform our role from being seen as mere gatekeepers and spin masters. I am working on a framework that allows governments, organizations, and brands to navigate this better. But more of that later. Thank you for being such a great audience. Loved being here. Thank you again.